is a journey connecting the music with the people that inspire us. You're listening to the Sounds of Success podcast with your host, Jim Lombardo. Brought to you by the Rising Tide Foundation. Let's jump right in.
Alfonso, it's good to be back in the studio, my friend.
I totally agree.
You finally agree with me about something. I like that. And for those who don't know, this is Alfonso. He's our producer. He keeps the tapes rolling, and he keeps us on track. Oh, my God. Alfonso, are you making sandwiches before this recording?
Fuel for thought, Jim. Ideas need mayonnaise.
Ugh. Kind of gross, Alfonso. So let's move on. We have a great guest today.
Oh, yeah? Who's in the studio?
Yeah, look, you get the sandwich. You got to take that sandwich out of your mouth first before you ask, right? We have a CEO, a best-selling author, and one hell of an athlete.
Wow, I'm exhausted just hearing about this guy.
Well, you're going to be exhausted by the end of this, believe me. So you can take a nap later, my friend, because in the studio today, we have Rick Simmons, CEO and co-founder of the Telos Institute. Rick, welcome to the studio.
Amazing to be here, Jim. Thanks for having me.
That's our pleasure. So, Alfonso, did you say something?
Sound check. Check 1, check 2.
Alfonso, he's just the best. He really is. He always keeps us on track. So, Alfonso is right, and we're going to do a sound check. And to do that, I'm going to reveal a song that I feel is really captures you, your nature, and your personality. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, Rick.
I want it.
Rick, I'm going back to 2011. The 6th track off the album Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds, which you are. You're a high flying bird. So I went all in on this, okay? With the song, What a Life. Now, I've known you for a little bit. High flying birds, perfect. And the way that you have lived your life, I think many times you've said, wow, what a life. So, Rick, what a life. Did we nail it?
Nailed it.
Oh, I nailed it. I didn't even have to finish the question. I nailed it.
Nailed it.
Which is great. This is great. So, that's perfect. I think sounds is good. Alfonso, what do you think?
Check that mic again.
Oh, see what I mean? He's got that sandwich in his mouth. That's the problem. Got it, Alfonso. Let's check the mics with a simple question. Rick, in a single sentence, how would you describe your current role?
Well, practically speaking, as the co-founder and CEO of the Telos Institute, it's my responsibility to oversee and guide the direction of the organization. I would say that less practically, it's my job to ensure that the work at Telos remains soulful, it remains purposeful, and it remains true to its origins.
Before we move on, I'm going to do everything I can not to weep during this podcast, because only you could bring a grown man to weep. Alfonso, how was that? I mean, seriously, could we ask for anything else during a sound check? Are we ready to record?
It's sounding great, ready to record track 1, built on the backstory.
Excellent. Okay, Rick, for track 1, we're going to start at the beginning. Okay? Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Elyria, Ohio. It's about 30 miles west of Cleveland. And while only 30 miles west of Cleveland, Elyria was kind of its own ecosystem. If you lived in Elyria, you didn't really go to Cleveland much. It was its own.
30 miles?
I know it's bizarre to say that, but Elyria was a bit of its own environment, kind of kind of outside the gravitational force of Cleveland.
Interesting. So what was it like growing up in Elyria?
Elyria was a solidly lower middle class community. I would say it was a community of haves and have-nots. It was a life's achievement and accomplishment for my parents to send my sisters and I to the parochial high school in town there. Their desire was to provide their children with a better future than they had. And I think they worked really hard to make that happen. But it was a safe, somewhat comfortable existence growing up in Elyria.
You know, I have a little bit of humor in my DNA. But Elyria, after your eloquent, the way you put growing up there, it seems like that was the second choice for Stranger Things.
Totally.
Because I see that the Upside Down could be in Elyria. That's just the name. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your childhood?
Yeah, look, I think that I received a lot of love as a child. I received a lot of support and latitude to pursue the things that were important to me as a child, as an athlete, as a student. I will say it's also true that I grew up in a household filled with some scarcity. Financial scarcity. I think, my parents had my 2 older sisters when they were very young. And I think because of that, there was a lot of emotional immaturity in my household. And I think I saw it as my job, Jim, to quell a lot of dysfunction or a lot of anger or anxiety that existed in the household. I sort of saw it as my job to manage some of that. So as a youngster, I sort of put some of that on my shoulders to manage some of that emotional immaturity in the household.
So, that I'm going to probably jump around, but use the word latitude. And I'm curious about that. How did you get latitude in growing up? Like, what was allowed? That makes me feel that something was allowed, or they gave you the space to do what you needed to do. And what is it that you needed to do?
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't recognize this at the time, but summers in my household, if I wasn't working, even as a young person, I'm sure we'll get into that, but I was industrious in nature and just summer jobs and doing things like that. But I had a lot of freedom to just go. My friends and I would bike ride 10 or 20 miles from home. And no one really knew exactly where I was.
Yeah. Nobody knew where anybody was. It was different. Yeah.
It was different. Yeah. And I think I had that kind of freedom to go and explore. And as I reflect back on it, I think that was really baked into my bones. I mean, I definitely still have a go and explore way about me and the way I live my life. And I think having that latitude early on in my childhood planted that seed in me.
So I don't want to stay here, but I'm curious about something. You used better words than I will, but kind of the managing of the home environment. How does that shape you as you continue to grow?
Yeah, I think with the benefit of some reflection, Jim, I think that early on in my life, and by the way, through...
And what's that age? When you say early in your life, are you talking like 8?
Yeah, 9, 10, 11 years old.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. And I would say what I'm about to share sort of stayed within me through my middle adulthood. And the idea was that I began to believe that if you were okay, I was okay. So it became my business as a youngster, this 9, 10, 11-year-old, to make sure that mom was okay, dad was okay, sisters were okay. And if all of those people were okay, I was okay. What I didn't develop at that point in my life was a strong sense of, if I'm okay, then I'm okay.
Right.
And it wasn't until a lot later in my life that I started to work on that. Now, truth be told, that served me well early on. I mean, I've been in one way, shape, or form in the helping business professionally for really my entire career in different ways, shapes, and forms. But I learned how to be a helper so early on in my life, even as a 9, 10, 11-year-old, that it accelerated my ability to be skillful at that very early in my career.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily born out of a real healthy dynamic, but I certainly had gotten a lot of rotations and a lot of cycles on how to be helpful.
Did anyone or anything influence you as you were growing up?
Yeah, I think a couple of people and a couple of situations. So I mentioned a minute ago, I was fairly industrious. I had a paper route as an 11-year-old, and I delivered the papers, and I had an inside and an outside part of the route, right? And
people don't even know. They don't know what a newspaper is, or a paper box.
Let alone a kid that would show up,
or do work.
Well, to your point.
Sorry to all the Gen, whatever they are, who are listening. It's okay not to work.
Right. Well, to that point, a few months into delivering these papers, I realized what a drag that was. So I hired 2 older kids in the neighborhood, one to deliver the inside of the route and one deliver the outside of the route. And I only had to deliver papers on the weekend, which Saturday was super easy and Sunday was fine. And then I just had to collect the money. So at 11 years old,
you were a gangster.
I was benefiting from labor arbitrage, right? I was paying these guys less than it cost me to have the route. And it was a really formative experience for me. I enjoyed the managing the customers and the route. And that so directly mapped to my future endeavors. I would also say I had 2 teachers and professors, one a high school teacher and one college professor. For lack of a better term, Jim, I would say they seemed to see something in me that really hit home. They took an interest in me. They acknowledged a little something special there and did so in a way that made me pause and kind of reflect on what that might be. And it caused.
Go into that. What do you mean? Went into something like what did they do specifically that kind of resonated?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of support and challenge. I think they articulated that they saw some gifts in me, but didn't stop there. They challenged me to cultivate it. They challenged me to bring it forth more so. I think it was easy at that point in my life to kind of, go halfway on some things and no one would know the difference. Mm-hmm. I felt seen by them and also challenged in a way that I couldn't hide from them. Mm-hmm. And I think I invested in their classes and I invested in me far more so because of that.
When you talked a little bit about kind of managing the home life at an early age, then you also coupled that with, I would ride my bike 20 miles away. With the luxury of hindsight, do you think some of those 20-mile bike rides were a bit of an escape?
We're getting
and also, we'll get into it more, some of the other things that you've done, which are incredible in your life, does that escapism kind of resonate? Yeah,
it's a good question, Jim. I think on the surface, one could see it that way.
Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. It was more of a curiosity than anything else.
Yeah. No, it would be a logical question that one would have. I think
a simple man would have.
I think for me, I have always needed what I'm going to refer to as spaciousness. I need room to operate, to think. I need new inputs in my life that I can kind of consider and twist around and compare that with this. And your question is causing me to think through in that it probably was an opportunity to free myself from that environment. I think that's a fair question, and it's upon reflection, I think that's true. And I think it's true that I've always needed and wanted, a lot of air to breathe. I need to go and see. I'm a tactile learner. I need to see it, feel it, taste it, touch it. And I think,
don't taste it. You gotta be careful. It might be poisonous.
I'm just back from Peru and the food was amazing. So
that's when a simple man will ask simple questions.
But yeah, it's a good question, and I think that it served two ends for me. It gave me a chance to kind of break away from that environment as a youngster, and it fed my curiosities in a number of levels.
I'm curious if those things led to kind of a tipping point to move into the space that you're in now. Was there an aha moment?
Yeah, I will say, because I had this background of emotional and financial scarcity, I think that making it in the world was a real goal and a real objective for me. I adopted society's definition of success, and I was going to play that game, and I was going to win that game.
Okay, what's society's definition of success?
Financial success, whatever the accoutrements are of that signal one's success. I was going to acquire
gold chains.
Totally.
So
we'll break out the throwback pictures here soon. So I think I committed myself to that, and on the journey to doing that, on the journey towards that, I began to feel quite empty, quite vacant. And I felt like I wanted to make a different kind of contribution. At this point, I had young children, and I know it sounds so saccharine, but I remember being in my office one day and looking around and turning off the lights, and I'm like, what is the sum total of my contribution here? And right or wrong or good or bad.
Okay, so let's put this in context. What age are you when you're asking these, profound questions to yourself, Marcus Aurelius?
late 20s, maybe 30. Yeah, probably 7 or 8 years into my professional career. Not there yet, but certainly I can see how this trajectory plays out, and what that might mean. And I just felt, Jim, deep within me, like I wanted to make a different kind of contribution in the world. I wanted the single note that I was going to play in this life, I wanted it to sound different than the one that I was playing at the time. And I found myself in a lot of rooms in my career at the time where financial elements were at play. There were decisions being made about the financial components, and I wanted to have more meaningful, more foundational level conversations with people.
At that moment when you turned the lights off and you said, what's the sum total of my life? Is that a catalyst to know something's there, or did you have a plan? Or you just had a feeling at that moment and you didn't necessarily know did you not necessarily know where to go with that, but you knew it was there?
Correct. That you've isolated it. What it did lead to, though, was an exploration of what my next step might be, and I did identify a graduate program. I went back to graduate school while full-time employed, and my graduate thesis was the return on investment of executive level coaching in professional service organizations. So I heard all these anecdotes.
Wow! Whoa! For Alfonso, I'm going to translate that for you. Can you? Alfonso's he's he's a simple man too. Can you rephrase that, what you just did? Because that was beautiful, but it was hard for us.
Do you want me to translate that or
yeah, get it back down to like third grade level. Yes. Because it is, I got it, but I need to hear it again.
We know coaching works. And if so, we ought to be able to measure it. And that's what I spent a few years in graduate school doing. Yeah. We had these anecdotal stories about how these coaching or these helping relationships were really valuable. And I have a bit of a metric view of the world. Math is a language for me. So I thought, I wonder if we can take these anecdotal stories of help and we can translate that and measure it. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did in graduate school. And I came out, Jim, with a real sense of a way forward, that we can measure these things. They are valuable. And, there's another couple of chapters after that. But I felt a real call to be the bridge between offering this really valuable help and making it rigorous, making it commercialized.
Right.
And I felt a real call to do that.
Quantifiable.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, when you're at the career you're at, which was financial services, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
When you have that kind of lights out, aha, this is not my destiny. How did you stay engaged at work when you know you need to move on?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know how explicit this move was at the time, but if I look back on it, I started doing the work that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
In the setting I was in at the time. I think I just found people around me who I could show up in a slightly different way and who were ready for that. And I could start doing that work kind of under the cover of
testing it.
Yeah. And I think that was really helpful to me. And there were people there who I'm extremely grateful for, who were ready for that. And I'm not sure they realize what a liberating role they played in helping me get where I'm at now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Alfonso, are we ready for track 2?
Yep, let's do it. Track 2, Sounds of Now.
Excellent. Rick, you have a lot of fans. And those fans want to know what you're up to now. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit more about the company?
Yeah. I think the high level arc of Telos is, my co-founder and I are very different people, and I think the Venn diagram of our skills, meaning there are things outside of that overlap that each of us do independently and distinctly well, and then there was an overlap of skills that I think kept us grounded, connected, clear, and aligned. Quickly after a few years resulted in us wanting to turn this into what I'll call an actual business. We had a lifestyle business for a couple of years. We started to build a team, build a staff. Again, this was born back to my ambition and my curiosity about whether the work of helping senior leaders in a substantial and rigorous way could be commercialized. Could it become a professional service like your lawyer and things like that? And so I had this real vision of making that real. We built a team. Today we did projects on 5 continents last year. Often U.S. multinationals who have a sales team in Brazil, or they have a plant over here or over there. But the scale of the work is real in terms of its footprint around the world. We're working with individual leaders themselves, leadership teams, and we're conducting large-scale enterprise-wide change initiatives at companies all around the world. So, Amy and I do spend a lot of time at different places around the world, and I think that part of that is to make sure that we have a true global view of the world. We bring a known and a real sense that we've been to these places. And I think that has a vitality to it that's important to our clients.
Alfonso, are you weeping?
I have tissues.
You're so good. Okay, Telos.
Yeah.
Tell us about the name.
We really agonized on that for a while. I think that for us, we wanted the name to in and of itself tell a story and be an intervention. And that's a pretty high standard. And so telos is a word that Aristotle used 2,500 years ago to mean with the end in mind. And there's a really formative story early on in the Telos journey where I happened to be in a Manhattan office tower, and I had a small role in that room. But for some reason, my voice rose above the cacophony of the McKinsey consultants were there, the binders were flying, and I said to the executive in the room, what are we really trying to accomplish here? And to his credit, and I was a fan of his at the time, and even more so afterward, he looked to his right, he looked to his left, and he said, I don't know. And at that moment, I realized how important it is to stay rooted and grounded in what you're trying to accomplish. So the telos word that Aristotle used around the end in mind really was central to the work that we do when we come into the room. Now, the institute word is also equally important because we wanted our organization both to be a collection point for a growing body of knowledge. We weren't just going to take other people's stuff and pull it off the shelf and dispense it, on a project. We wanted to be in the business of creating new thinking, cutting edge ways of intervening with our clients. And equally so, we wanted the work that we do to be practical, to be implemented. So institute is also a verb. And so the standard that we bring into the room is that this is stuff you can actually do, apply, implement. And that was a real important part of the name.
Early on, you have this vision. How much enters your head of, holy shit, am I doing the right thing? You could in here intellectually say, this is amazing. But if the market's not ready, the market's not ready.
Yeah.
Did that enter your head at all?
It's a really funny question, Jim, because very early.
Funny ha-ha or funny ironic?
Both. It's a 2-for-1. We had a friends of ours who were at our home, and he was a Booz Allen consultant at the time. And he was like, "Oh, I'm really excited for what you guys are doing with Telos." And then after a short pause, he's like, "As long as there's a market for it."
Oh, no way. Okay.
And I don't
want anyone to think I was ripping off a question that was out there. I didn't tap into your brain and heard that conversation.
No, it's so good because I was a bit Pollyanna at the time about,
Sure.
And his question was
I like that about this podcast.
It ends well. Yeah. He really gave me a cold bucket of water, and it sort of caused me to pause and think about things differently. And it didn't dissuade me at all. I just knew in my bones that this was work that we needed to do, and there was a market for it, and we charged off. There's
a central concept that I think has driven, to some degree, Telos, your thinking. And what's the topic of that?
Yeah. I think very early on, we recognized that human beings are pattern recognizing, mimicking machines.
Oh, Father, did you hear that? You still have the tissues?
So we recognized that was true. It's one of the things that makes human beings great. It's also one of the things that impedes their forward progress. And so we championed this idea of liminal spaces, these pattern-breaking, pattern-interrupting moments. They can last for hours, they can last for days, they can last for weeks or months if necessary or need be. But it's these moments in time that as we define it, these are periods of discontinuity or pattern breaking that create an openness, a disproportionate openness for change. So if we can get access to people, rip them out of their routinized world for a short period of time, they will greatly consider how they might want to redo some of those patterns back in their native environments. And that's really a core tenet to the work we do at Telos. Whether it's in a coaching engagement or whether we hike a group of CEOs to Patagonia like we did earlier this year, all of that is built on that.
Don't ruin it here. This is like cliffhanger stuff. But the concept is liminality. And liminality, if we're going to keep it simple, and this is for Alfonso because he's simple too, is really just pattern breaking.
That's right.
At the simplest form.
Yep.
Right?
That's right.
So question on that. Is it, and you don't have to, if it's not true, say, but is that the reason, and I'll speak for myself, that you could go through life and there are moments that you remember extremely distinctly and others that you just don't. And those ones you remember distinctly seem to have changed the course. And I'm going to speak specifically to death. I would say that's the biggest one. And that's probably an extreme example, right? And they don't have to be that extreme, but is that the reason why we, for pattern recognition, that we see things like a death to be so memorable and other things to be, you just can't even recall other things?
It is, Jim. I mean, the answer to your question is 100% yes. These are such stark pattern breaking, whether they be thought patterns, whether they be patterns of engagement or relation with people, as the result of a death. It is. And I would say, without rolling forward too quickly here, the real provocative proposition that we bring forth is not that these interruptions exist, because most of us experience them retrospectively. Something happens to us.
Right.
Our contention is that you can actually create and engineer controlled burns in your life in a way that gets you regular and frequent access to the power of these in-between spaces. And so we don't have to sit around and wait for the 10-year flood to happen. We can live a life whereby we are actively engaging in these pattern interrupting experiences.
When you talk about controlled burn, you have to be ready for that. Yes or no? I can imagine someone getting spooked.
I think
Alfonso's already spooked.
He's still around. Is he even still here?
I feel the love.
In between a bologna sandwich. I digress. I'm sorry.
I think, to be really intellectually honest about this, I think there is a span of readiness from, 0 ready to 100 ready and all points in between. And I would say that the degree that we are closer to 100 in terms of our readiness, mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever realms are important in that sense, the more ready we can be, the more valuable those pattern breaking moments will be.
Right. Well, that begs the question, have you ever engaged with someone who says they're a 10, but they're actually a 2?
I think that it is common.
I think you used 100. Your scale was 100. So we'll just say they say they're at 100, but they're actually at 20%.
It's not generally quite that stark, but it is regularly the case that we have a bias for believing that we're way more ready for these disruptive moments than we are. So it might be, okay. I think I'm an 80, I'm probably a 50.
Right.
I think I'm an 82, I'm really kind of a 45.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's often within people. We've taken really special forces. We've taken professional athletes on some of these curated disruptive experiences, so they feel in their mind fully physically ready. But it's the other elements where maybe they haven't done as much work that ends up coming out on trail.
You didn't always deal with athletes. You didn't always deal with military personnel. So can you talk a little bit about the early days of Telos? Maybe walk us through the process and kind of how you're thinking about this.
Yeah, it makes me think of a story, Jim. I don't know if you've ever heard this, and it's probably the best. And I'll speak to it more directly and more practically. But this story is coming to my mind. Have you ever been in, a Costco or whatever, and you see a younger mom who's carrying maybe a 15-month-old on her hip, right? And she's not large, and this child might be, I don't know, 35 pounds or something. And you're like, how in the world can this 115-pound mom be carrying this 35-pound child who's wriggling around, is heavy, right? And she's shopping like nothing. And I think that what I realize that makes that happen is that she was carrying that child when he was 8 pounds and then 8.1 pounds. And every day between when that child was born and he's 15 months, 35 pounds, whatever she was stacking the capacity to carry that child like nothing. And I think that that's analogous to how the Telos Institute grew. Our core mantra out of the gate was do good work. Stuff leads to stuff. If there's an executive who needs coaching support in the worst way, and we are equipped to provide that, we're going to get a win there. We're going to help that person win personally and professionally. And that was akin to carrying that child at, 8 or 9 pounds. And we just kept doing the work. And it's not that we never looked down the road a little bit, but early on, we stayed very, very focused on doing good work.
Doing good work is one thing. And there's another guest that was on who said, you can't just do good work and expect everyone to show up and pay.
Yep.
How do you get that one person, the first person, to say, I want that work? The second one is, how do you, because I will tell you, you are not, but how do you avoid getting painted as the coach, just another coach, right? Early on. I think
the answer to that is, and this won't be true for everyone, so it's not like this is the model everyone can rinse and repeat. Right. I had some relationships in my previous career whereby they had experienced the differentiated Telos experience. It wasn't Telos yet, but it was the Rick Simmons experience.
The Rick Simmons experience. That could be your podcast, my friend. Can't wait to be a guest.
Yeah, I look forward to that. It was the bridge between getting our first couple of projects.
Right.
And I will say, your previous guest is right that you can't just expect things to happen. I mean, we were quite assertive in saying, hey, Joe, how do we broaden and deepen our relationship at ABC Company? This was beneficial for you. You know it. We know it. And so we stood pretty tall in the face of good work delivered. And we weren't afraid to explore how we were going to scale that.
Yeah.
And it worked.
But I've read your book a few times. It wasn't easy, right? And you had challenges early on.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't have to go dive into those because anybody can read the book. But I'm curious how you stayed inspired in the face of some pretty extreme adversity early on.
Yeah. And I don't want to sugarcoat that. It is in the book and we don't have to go deep into it now. But as mentioned earlier, in terms of my upbringing and my background, there were no trust funds. There were no backstops for us. It was very real, the risks we were taking. And by the way, in those kinds of situations, one spouse stays fully employed for the healthcare and all this. We burned the boats of
all the boats.
We burned all the boats, and Amy and I both.
And the dock.
Yeah, for sure. So that's real, and I suppose it's right. It is darkest right before dawn, and that's exactly the experience we had. And from time to time, we do reflect back on the projects that came in at just the right time, that kept us afloat, that then allowed for the curve to go.
Yeah.
Jim, I guess just to answer your question, you asked how do you stay inspired?
Yeah.
I knew that the work mattered to our clients. The people that had utilized it, they spoke about it, and they communicated their appreciation for it in a way that I wasn't going to let go of the dream of Telos.
Let's talk a little bit about leadership ventures, because that's also something that you offer. And I think it's pretty unique. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Interestingly, that was the original idea for the business.
Interesting. Okay.
Singularly, like we weren't going to do any coaching. We weren't going to do, a lot of the work we do today. We were simply going to take senior leaders to bucket list type destinations around the world and use that outdoor classroom as a means of helping them evolve their ability to lead, think strategically, and drive change. Use that liminal space, if you will, the Grand Canyon, Patagonia, Kilimanjaro, whatever it is.
Wherever.
Iceland, yeah. To break
Cleveland, get on the bus.
Metro Parks.
Who's got their bus pass? That would be the liminal experience I'd create. I told you. Okay, I'm sorry. Leadership ventures was good. The first thing you thought about.
Yeah, that was the whole business. We were that was all we were going to do. And there were some significant hurdles.
I'm trying to juxtapose how my initial leadership venture would go versus yours, which was Patagonia. and the different the quantifiable difference between the thinking. Okay.
By the way, we should absolutely do that version. That would be hilarious.
Getting on the bus?
Yeah.
To Cleveland?
Yeah.
The one that's a buck. I want that bus. The one that's a buck to get somewhere.
The red bus.
Okay. Should I reframe where we are after that little detour?
No. I think okay. Everybody's with us.
If they've read this far, they're sticking around.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were going to rip people out of their corner offices and break some patterns and give them access to some new ways of thinking and being, so they can go back to those corner offices upgraded.
Did you initially want to do that because it had a little bit of meat to it? It had a little bit of a hook? More so than, and please take this the right way, more so than like just kind of coming out of the gate and saying, we're doing some killer coaching. And did that enter your head? That's like, hey man, if we take these people to these crazy places, that's gonna like hit a nerve with high performer.
100%. It was sexy. It was different. It was eye catching. Jim, I will tell you, even as we sit here today, there are dozens of our clients who do the more day-to-day services from us, coaching or team cohesion work or M&A due diligence work that we do, who have never been on a leadership venture. But one of the reasons they do that more day-to-day, buy those more day-to-day services, is because they want to do it with a firm that's capable of doing that kind of thing. They believe, and they're right, that a little bit of Patagonia is going to be baked in even to the daily things they do.
Yeah.
It creates an aspirational tone to our brand.
Yeah, got it. Makes sense. So it probably wasn't the dollar bus trip to Cleveland, but what was the first venture?
While that was the original idea for the business, there were coaching opportunities and team cohesion work to do. So we started doing those things. And then it was Amy who, several years into our journey, said, we've got...
Maybe we should talk a little bit about Amy, because you've mentioned it a couple of times, and I'm not sure that the 7 people listening. Right.
Fair point. So Amy Simmons is my Telos Institute co-founder, spouse, and at this point, partner in all ways in life. And again, she was the other side of the Venn diagram. She built a lot of our intellectual property. She was essentially inside while I was outside in the early days of the Telos Institute. And she brought a lot of rigor and more of a scientific bent to the work that we brought into the room, which was really helpful. And to her credit, a few years in, she said, we've gotten away from the venture concept. And she did a lot of legwork, and we partnered with a firm called the Wildland Trekking Company. A guy named Scott Cundy there was one of the co-owners. And Scott immediately got what we were up to. He had been in personal development in the past in his career. And so he was really eager to engage with us. That was about 2012. And we did our first official venture in 2013. And Scott and Wildland have been a great partner for us for the last almost 15 years now. So it's been really great.
So what was that first venture?
Grand Canyon. Yeah. We took a group into the
How many went?
7 people.
It did 7 came back, right?
5 came back. Well, an interesting story, Jim, if I can share this. So, there was a lot we didn't know on that first one. Amy and I went and we test drove a venture.
Ah, okay.
We just did one, just the two of us.
With that company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we knew logistically we had found a partner. We weren't going to take clients on something that we'd never done ourselves.
Right.
But when we went back for our first official, we hiked down. There's a number of ways to get to the Colorado River at the Grand Canyon, and we took a route that had more solitude, but it was also a little bit more challenging than some you can take into the canyon. So day one, we hiked down quite a ways. It was a challenging route. Day 2, we're hiking laterally. And it was one of those high sky days in the Grand Canyon. And one of the participants stopped, very successful guy. He turns around and he looks at me. He's probably 5 feet from me. And he said, unprompted, we were just hiking quietly. He said, if I live in a world where this is possible, and he looks around, he said, I've been thinking way too small about my business. And he looks right at me and he says, I've been thinking way too small about my life. And I knew in that moment that this was an offering we had to continue to make available to people. And it was a poignant moment, but I think in the 12 years since we've been back from the canyon, to see the decisions he's made in his life to double down on himself as a person and a professional is what keeps me going.
Have there been other moments where people say things that just was like, wow, is this really having this kind of impact? Or does it happen all the time? Or is there a couple that stand out?
Every time. I mean, it's what I would say also, this is a really unique dynamic. You can set your watch by a group will say, I can't imagine any other contingent of participants that would have been on this trip. It was a perfect group. If there would have been one more person or one less person, the whole thing would have been off.
Are you talking about specifically what in that moment when he said that to you, or are you saying in general?
Almost every group that we take on a trek, anywhere, near the end of the trek itself, people will, sitting around the campfire, they'll say, the reason this was so special is that it was exactly the right contingent of people. And that's hilarious because almost every single group says that. And so I think there's something really powerful about shared experience that makes people think that it was about the participants. And to some degree, that's true, but it's more a nod to the power of shared experience. Yeah, when we move forward together, we move forward together. And I think that's what people feel on a venture.
What came first, the book idea or leadership ventures?
Ventures, for sure. We never aspired to write a book. That was never on our to-do list.
Got it. What sparked the book?
The title of the book is called Unleashed, Harnessing the Power of Liminal Space. And I would say it's one part desk reference, one part field guide for anyone who is in the midst of a major transition, personally or professionally, or who wants a framework for how to trigger these productively disruptive moments in their lives. The origin, Jim, was I had 5 clients ask me in a coaching relationship, where do I read more about some of the concepts that you guys talk about? And then I had 20 people ask me, and then I had 50 people ask me, and I'm like, around 100 people, I'm like, maybe we ought to write some of this down. Maybe it would be helpful if we had a desk reference for people to that end. So it was really market driven. It wasn't, my ego wasn't, resting on a book or anything like that. It was really out of demand from clients.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the book. That is I don't want to be cliche about it, but a bucket list thing that people want to do. But I think sometimes it's difficult to start. So was writing that book challenging? I've
never physically birthed a child, but I can imagine that it's somewhat similar.
Alfonso, you're not the only one.
Physically, actually. People have told me that it's analogous to that process. It's
interesting.
It's laborious. It's and I think what helped.
Did women tell you that? Because yes. I don't think. Oh, really? Interesting. If a bunch of guys said, "Oh, yeah, it's like giving birth,"
no,
not quite the same punch.
No. Several women have told me it has similar. It's a laborious process. It's not scintillating. It's all the work that gets done in the.
Is it scintillating? I don't know. I'm asking.
No comment.
I'm asking a question. It's not scintillating. I don't know. I don't even know what that means. Your vocabulary is shocking. Let's talk about vocabulary for a second.
Yeah.
I'm often shocked, amazed, bewildered by the scope of your vocabulary. I've never heard that.
Because he responds non-verbally.
But did you work on that, or is that just? Did it come naturally?
There was never an intention there. I don't work on it. I don't. I think where it comes from, Jim, is I feel like I enjoy finding the right word to encapsulate an important thought or a concept. And I sort of enjoy, and I like if I can source the right word that really captures what I'm trying to say. I will say, I think there's times when it's not helpful. Like if I pull a word out, I'm not trying to.
No, I don't think that's it. I think it's the challenge between wanting to find that word and actually being able to, get access to the word.
Dialogue is my currency. my professional currency. So I don't.
How do you do it with a straight face? I mean, it's unbelievable. Are you still crying back there? You have to be crying at that one. His language is his currency.
It's very poetic.
Woo! Nice job, Alfonso. Beautifully said. I'm like a more of a blunt instrument with my language. I beat people into submission.
Yeah, and by the way, I think that there are benefits to that that I don't get access to. I think there can be a simplicity of language that really resonates. And
yeah, well, it can't get much more simple than me. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about some of your extreme running. And years ago, you had the concept of staggering out, so you all finished together. You had I can't remember what you called that, but that was what was the name of that?
One Step More.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that's great. So, can you talk to us a little bit about some of the marathon running, how that started? What was the catalyst to kind of go there? Maybe you could just start at the beginning and talk a little bit about that.
I was an athlete through my childhood and into college. And so sports and competition was a part of my life pretty much throughout. There was a little hiatus there in the early part of my professional career where I kind of went cold turkey on all those things, and I really threw myself into work. My mother at the time had a stint put in, and I went to the hospital to see her, and she looked really bad. Like that was a liminal moment for me. I was like really shocked by, not that I hadn't just seen her the week before, but there was something really stark about seeing her in the hospital. And
yeah,
I went out to the lobby of the hospital and I wrote down 3 or 4 things I'd gotten away from at that point in my life. And one of them was I wrote down, I'm an athlete. And I had gotten away from being an athlete. And so I went out and I ran a couple miles the next morning, or at least that was my intention. And I walked the last half mile in, and I was so dejected. I was out of shape, and I just decided to go out the next morning and to go out the morning after. And I just kept going. And it led to some road races. I ran a half marathon. Amy and I ran the Cleveland Marathon together. And I hadn't really hit the wall yet. And I was curious about how far I could go. So I started running ultramarathons. But to your point, Jim, when I started stretching beyond traditional marathon, it wasn't just the physical. In fact, it became very little a physical endeavor. I think there were things happening in my life at the time. There was a relationship that was ending that I think I was using ultra running as a place to reconcile whether I was a finisher on a couple of different realms and on a couple of different dimensions in my life. And so it was one part therapeutic, one part intellectually stimulating. And then there certainly was a physical component to it as well. But I would say the physical piece was far less and far more about, was Rick Simmons a finisher or not?
Yeah. At the end of that, did you get your answer? You didn't even touch on some of the extreme running that you did.
Yeah.
Do you get the Forrest Gump moment where you're just like stop and you look back and like, I'm done?
Yeah.
Did it answer the question of, are you a finisher? Did it do that for you?
It did, but to say that it did would be to not acknowledge the tsunami of other insights that I got through that process. I think the great journeys in life answer questions we didn't even know we had. And the question I had was I a finisher? And while I did get some insights into that, the pure tonnage of value that I got in other ways. For example, when you're 65 miles into 100-mile foot race, you're too far in to stop, and you are not far enough in to know how in the hell the rest of this thing is going to play out.
Right.
And as someone who's often sitting across from a business leader who's 9 months into a 15-month product launch, or they're 9 months into an M&A deal, and it's touch and go as to how that's going to play out, I know in my body physically what it feels like to be too far in and not yet far enough.
Right.
I feel like I can be a reservoir of support to people because of those experiences in ways I never would have imagined.
I feel like I'm too far in here. Look, come on, you're a successful guy, but let's talk about a mistake or mistakes or failures that you feel have occurred. Is there anything that stands out?
This is one that quickly comes to my mind. I didn't see this coming at all. And what this is just as a means of background. So the measure of the Telos standard when someone, has our jersey on and they come into the room,
you have jerseys?
Oh, you should see them.
Thin, half crop tops.
The jersey, so to speak.
Let's see you regroup.
Right. Is they need to have equal dose neck up and neck down. They need to have business fluency. If I walk into a room with a CFO, the first thing that she wants to do is find out if I know my debits from credits. Not literally.
Literally, yeah, right. Sizing you up.
Totally. And I need to have equal dose neck down. I need to be able to empathize. I need to be able to really understand where this person is in the arc of their life, their profession. I need to see the whole board, right? I think the lack of awareness I had was how rare it was going to be to find both of those dimensions in a practitioner. Typically, what we see is someone who is a former division president of a manufacturing company who knows their debits and credits, but there's not a lot of blood getting to this part of the system, right? Or vice versa. They may have more.
I think there's a joke in there somewhere. I don't know.
We probably have remedies for that, but we haven't figured that one out.
But don't.
Or vice versa, where they could be a little more life coach oriented, and they can't speak fluently about the challenges of business and industry, where they can be a real leadership advisor to someone who has a big job like that. So having both of those is a must. And I underestimated how hard it was going to be to find both of those attributes in single practitioners.
That's the failure you had? That's the mistake? Seriously? That's the pinnacle? That you underestimated the fact that they couldn't connect mind and body in a practitioner?
It was harder than I thought. It was harder than I thought.
Well, yeah, that's pretty good. I thought you were going to say, you're doing all right. But isn't that your role? Like don't you thrive in that space where there's a disconnect between?
It was one of those things, like when you're surprised by something, and it sort of had me wondering, wow, are there other things that I never would have dreamed would be challenging? We haven't experienced a lot of other things like that, but it's for sure. I thought there would be a sea of people who had both of those qualities.
So did it surprise you because you're wired that way and you just assumed everybody else was wired that way?
There's probably some of that. Yeah. I think when we thought about the avatar that is the Telos consultant, to some degree it was built, in my image, not exactly, but to some degree. And I think that neck down, neck up piece was a real foundational piece of it.
Let me separate here. You're talking about individuals that were part of your organization, not necessarily coaching engagements of companies.
Right.
So
Practitioner.
these are people internally.
Yeah. So as we're growing, I'm thinking we can find people with these attributes to deliver work on behalf of Telos. And it was far more difficult.
What'd you do?
I mean, there's days when I feel like we've probably talked to every coach in America at this point. Like we really have spent almost 20 years talking to every coach that's out there.
Did you talk to Alfonso?
Transcripts of my conversation with Alfonso will show up in the show notes.
Come on, we've got an album.
Oh, I love you, Alfonso. I'm just kidding. Keep the ham sandwiches coming.
The strategy that we ultimately employed there was we realized that the handful of practitioners that really had that dual dimension were probably the best source to finding other coaches and consultants.
Yeah.
And we just doubled down on the people we had. We kept them busy. We fed them work, and then used that good relationship with them to source others in their networks who wanted a similar relationship.
Does that ever make you feel lonely?
What's that?
What's lonely?
Does what make me feel lonely?
The fact that you are wired a little bit differently.
You know, early on, Jim, I was so focused on breaking out of scarcity that I talked about earlier, that I experienced earlier in my life, which, by the way, this is an interesting fact. I have a friend who runs a very successful private equity firm. And one of the top criteria they use to determine which founders they're going to back is the presence of childhood trauma in that founder's background. Because that is the insatiable power plant of motivation and ambition that trumps just about anything else that exists in someone.
Do you know what I've coined that?
No.
It's called the DNA edge. It's determination and never-ending ambition. And generally a function of a traumatic liminal experience.
Yes. And
I'm using your terms. I wouldn't say it that eloquently, but
there is just an unending reservoir of energy there, to your point, that would warrant investing in someone that has that dynamic. But
is there anything you wish someone had told you when you were first starting out?
Yeah, I'm pausing, Jim, because I'm coming up with a thought or two, and I just wonder how open I would have been to that at the time.
Right.
Yeah. Like, for example, I'm at a point in my life now where I have started to create some really valuable, very rich friendships in my life as a mid-50s man. And that the community of those people is insanely valuable to me now. If someone would have pulled up 20 years ago and said, hey, you should build an ecosystem of support early on to soften the ups and downs that you're going to go through as an entrepreneur, that would have been good advice. I don't know how open I would have been to it.
Yeah.
I sort of had a Lone Ranger the thing for a while, with Amy, of course, but it kind of drove me. So I don't know that there's anything.
Resilience or adaptability? If you had to pick one, which one's more you? I'm
curious what your answer would be for me.
That's not how
the show works.
It's not really how it works, though. It's not a coaching session. Look, I didn't ask you one question when we went to dinner, so I figured this would be a great opportunity for me.
Yeah. I think if I had to pick one, I think resilience would probably be my answer. I feel like adaptability is a headier way of being. It's a more intelligent way of being. It implies that one is aware of their surroundings. They're cognizant in making choices to go left or right or whatever that is. But I think if I were to summarize Rick Simmons most accurately, he won't stop.
Easy to say now, but that would have been the same answer.
Really?
Oh yeah. So this is going to be real open-ended here, but how do you approach personal development while you're running these businesses? You're an extremely self-aware, insightful individual. What are you doing to garner some of that guidance? I can't imagine it just all of a sudden magically comes to you. I don't mean to laugh, but I think it's just that stoic moment you get into that just makes it, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
These are good questions. By the way,
I'm serious. Like that's like the insightful stuff. Where is the source? I just can't believe. I mean, are you telling me you just sit in a corner and it all of a sudden it just comes in?
Couple things, and I want to get this PSA, these two PSAs in here right now. Okay, and I hope these stay in.
PSAs. First time. Got it.
The first one is, now I'm trying to remember what they are.
Look both ways before you cross.
No,
Come back to it.
the first one is I have long felt that the measure of one's competence is expressed. No, stay with me on this.
I'm with you.
Is expressed far more in the quality of the questions they ask than the answers they'll ever give to any question that's offered to them. And so, that pause you see from me, Jim, really is an acknowledgement of the quality of these questions. And I'm really excited that you have this outlet to put your ability to ask questions on full display for all of our benefit. So I really appreciate that about you.
They're simple. They're simple man's questions.
The second PSA is I have over the last couple of years come to really value the small collection of relationships that have been in my life for a long period of time. And it doesn't mean that knowing someone for a long time suggests you have a good relationship. Like I've known some people a long time and it's not a good relationship. It's not a relationship. I just happen to know them. But there's a small subset of people that I've known a long time that have seen multiple seasons of my life who I do feel a strong connection to, and I deeply cherish and value those relationships. And this is one of those. Cue the tissues.
All right, you didn't answer the question though.
No, I'm getting to that. So how do I plug into the matrix is the question.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Sure. Let me see the back of your neck.
The back of my neck?
Well, that's
yeah, right.
You don't have one of those, do you? You don't have one of those plugs. All right.
I think the best answer I can give you is twofold. The first one is I was on a panel recently and a similar question came up. And I think simply by working with really amazing corporate athletes, we're constantly leveling up together. And I think through really rigorous, really intimate, productive dialogue, the coachee's getting better and we're moving, but I'm also getting better. I'm also getting different perspectives. I'm learning at the same time through that process. So I've just been fortunate to work with some really great corporate athletes that have helped me get better along the way. That's the first piece. Yeah. The second piece quickly is just, we have been very deliberate about dropping ourselves in a diverse set of cultures, geographies that have varied histories and culinary scene. Like it's fully disruptive, some of the places that we travel to around the world. And I find that to be a liberating environment. to see things differently, experience things differently, not just what I'm experiencing and seeing there, but as I look back across the world, I see things differently also. That's my answer.
Your insight, your perspective personally is a function of coaching engagements and travel.
Put it simply.
Yes.
You're not sitting there reading Marcus Aurelius to get insight.
Not to the degree that you would think. Like I just recently reread Siddhartha, for those that are familiar with that book. I read that book 15 or 20 years ago. I recently pulled that back out and I did read that. And I picked up some new and interesting things. But I would say that is a secondary piece for me because I'm a
tactile, right?
Yeah.
I can't even ask these questions after that. Okay, so I'll do this. This is a good one. And I think you're gonna answer this probably best of anybody. Is there one really tough decision that you've had to make at Telos that sticks out?
I can think of two. Did I have two? I share two.
Sure.
The first one that came to my mind, I'll share that one. It was right at the onset of COVID, and we have a large enterprise-wide relationship with a Central Florida healthcare system. And we had done a large amount of work with them, and we were just recently under contract to do another very similar piece of work with them in the coming year. And they had budget, so they had prepaid for all of that work for the coming year. The COVID hit, and they said, not only are we not going to do that work next year, we want all our money back.
Right.
And I remember my colleague at the time, who was that point on that relationship, came and she's like, I just told Michelle to send the hospital, their money back. And I said, we're not going to do that. And I think it was a difficult decision to go back to them to say, hey, we get you, but I can't think of an industry who's more in need now of support, maybe in a retrofitted sort of way, than healthcare practitioners in America. So let's repurpose those dollars and let's deploy them differently next year, but let's not deploy them at all. I suppose in retrospect, it's not that big of a decision because, like, what did we have to lose? But at the time, it felt very big. It was an important client then and now, and we didn't want to fracture it forever. So it was a bit of a bold move. And they instantly said, totally agree. Let's rethink this. And so in retrospect, it was not very risky, but it felt important at the time.
Yeah.
And real quickly, the second decision was probably hiring. We now have a president at Telos. So from an org chart perspective, I technically have one direct report, which is Mike Herzog. He's the president, and it's Mike's job to run and drive the organization day to day. I guess that was an important decision, but not a difficult one. But that has transformed, I think, the organization and certainly my life in a number of different ways, and that's been a really formative choice.
When you look back, anything you'd change?
Jim, I used to think, oh man, if only I would have started this 10 years earlier. Why did I wait until then? And boy, I totally think differently about it now. The value that has come to me because of those first 10 years of my career, the language I learned, the skills I learned, the confidence I gained, I wouldn't have had any of that if I would have started doing this 10 years earlier. So I'm so grateful for that time.
Let's talk about the next 5 years. Where do you see yourself personally? Where do you see Telos?
We're already starting to see a consolidation in our space. There is a tiering that's happening at this point of firms, mostly in terms of the quality and the rigor of their client base, of the quality and the rigor of their earnings, quality of the work they do. There's a big separation happening right now. I think that that's also going to come with probably some consolidation in the industry. And I really would like to see Telos be a meaningful player in creating gravity around what really good work in this space looks like. Work that is human-centered but technology-enabled, where any number of forms of technology, not limited to AI, comes into the human development space. And we want to lead that charge. We want to be a platform upon which adding size and scale can be the epicenter for. And I think that would be a fun 5 years.
Let's see if I'm hearing you right. Are you saying consolidation, meaning you're going to be an acquirer, or you're going to be the acquired? That's the first question. And the second one is, are you referring to potentially having coaching engagements with other coaching companies to get them better? Oh,
yeah. Primarily the former. I think there is going to be a period of M&A that happens in our space. And I think Telos could be the hunter, whereby we know what good looks like in our space. And with a robust capital partner behind us, I think we could go out and roll up a number of firms that look and act and walk and talk a lot like Telos, that make the work look really strong and productive. And I think that'll probably happen over the next 5 years.
Are you saying that the other ones that aren't doing the quality work just fall by the wayside?
Just go away? Yeah. The level of investment that is going to be required to do this work well is going to be too great for most firms at the bottom end of the market. We recently made a minority investment in an AI firm as an expression of our full commitment to the use of technology in our work. And I think to have distinctive offerings, it's going to be hard for smaller firms to make that happen.
Yeah. So I think you know that the name of this podcast is The Sounds of Success. So the question is, how does Rick Simmons define success?
I've been thinking about this a little, not this specific question, but I've been thinking about the things in my life that when they're present indicate that most, if not all, of the things that are most important to me are in alignment. And I think that when I'm with friends or colleagues or my children or my spouse or the most important people to me that are in my life, when laughter is a part of any of those interactions, I am a successful man. Like almost everything else that is important is in alignment when we're laughing. Right. I feel safe. I feel seen. I feel understood. I think the humor and laughter is born out of intellect and seeing things differently. And so I would say the single sound indicating my success would be laughter.
Well, you know the follow-up question. Are you successful?
I feel extremely satisfied, Jim. I feel content with the choices I've made. I feel content with the journey that I've followed. And I feel very satisfied from that standpoint. And yes, I feel quite successful. There's a lot of laughter in my life.
Who gives you the most laughter? if you had to rank them. Alfonso, did you say something?
Jim, this is really shaping up. Let's talk about liner notes.
Oh, Alfonso, he's a smart guy. Rick, Alfonso's right. And any great album has great liner notes. So, Rick, your fans are really going to get to know you with these next questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Who is the closest adult, I had to add adult because we had some people that made their own choices. Who is the closest adult person you know, first name only?
Amy.
Amy. If we asked Amy to describe your quirks and weird habits, what would she say? I want to know that one right there. The one that just popped in your head that you laughed about.
Yeah.
That's the one I want.
I think Rick can be a lot.
Profound. Oh, that is fantastic.
I think Rick can be a lot. Yeah.
Anything else?
No, at risk of being a lot, no.
Okay. If you could instantaneously master any skill, what would it be?
I'd love to play the piano at a really high level. I'd love the piano.
Do you play piano now?
No, not much. I like to sing, but I think if I could do the piano, make me really happy.
So it's interesting because I think my grandmother always said, "Where there's a will, there's a way." And when I ask that question, I'm always curious if anyone's going to try to master the actual skill that they say. But that's for another show. When you, Rick Simmons, just needs to hit the reset button, what's your go-to zone out activity? And I'm talking zone out, not 100-mile marathon, okay? I'm talking zone out.
Yeah.
I'm talking like bachelorette stuff.
I'm going to give you a real answer here.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
I love timepieces. I collect timepieces.
The guy can't say Roadrunner cartoons. He can't say that, you know?
Yeah. I collect timepieces, so I play with my watches.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. Give me your top two that you feel connected to.
I have a Breguet Classique. It's reminiscent of a vintage pocket watch.
You bought this, or was it handed down?
I bought this. Yeah, all my watches I purchased. Yeah, that's a really special piece. I was at the Patek Philippe Museum in Geneva several years ago. I saw some of the very earliest pocket watches, and this watch is reminiscent of some of those early pocket watches. It's really, really special piece.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I like the history of timepieces. I like some of the romantic elements of timekeeping, the engineering that lives underneath the seemingly simple watch face that lives underneath it is really amazing to me. And in a world that's become so digital, I like the fine engineering that comes.
Is it metaphorical to you?
One of my favorite quotes is a Oliver Wendell Holmes quote. He said, "I would not give a fig for some." I'm quoting now. I would not give a fig for simplicity this side of complexity, but I would give my whole life for simplicity the other side of complexity. And so there's this thing that comes out the other side of grinding through the complexity of something and cracking the code of elegance. And I think a great timepiece for me is a touchstone to what simplicity, the other side of complexity, looks like.
You got that box of tissues? I got a weeping man.
Yeah.
It's winding us up.
Well said. All right. Dead or alive? Who do you have lunch with?
You know what? Just to be playful,
sure.
Aaron Sorkin.
God.
I think he is a genius among us that we don't even realize. I think he's a creative marvel. There's probably better choices upon reflection, but I would 100%.
That's fine. Okay, so you have an amazing lunch with Aaron Sorkin, but inevitably the check comes. Who pays?
Oh, I do, 100%. Not even a question. I would tell them I would call days ahead and make sure that was taken care of.
I'd call one extra day. Money or meaning? Don't do it. Don't just go there. I just saw that you just checked yourself.
It's the premise, I think, is slightly flawed.
Oh my God. The premise is flawed. Alfonso, did you hear that? The premise is flawed. You know what? We're going to move on because I saw a sense of fear. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm not even. It's terror. That's the.
I don't think it counts now.
No, it doesn't, because it's. You know what? The premise was flawed. As a traveled man, 1, not 5, 1. What is the best trip you've ever taken?
That's an impossible question.
Flawed. The premise is flawed.
It's not flawed.
Just you can't get one that really sticks out.
South Africa is amazing. From Cape Town to the safaris, South Africa is the total package, the real deal. Definitely on the top of my list.
Okay. And the second part was what made it the best. Did you have profound thinking along this trip? And I'm not being kidding.
No, I did. It was a mix of urban and outdoor. It was a total package. Yeah, and spent quite a bit of time there, so it was great.
Books or movies?
Movies.
So let's go to books. What book? One book would you give as a gift? I knew it. I swear to God, the self-promoting, unbelievable. I knew it. I swear to God, Alfonso, I should have made a bet with you. That would be the first thing he'd say. I'll just give it to you. That's
harnessing the power. I'm gonna go.
You probably would give that. That's probably the first. I mean, that's honest.
Probably not. I probably wouldn't.
All right. Well, it's flawed. It's probably flawed from the beginning.
Man's Search for Meaning. I think it's quite liminal.
Excellent. All right. Well, now we'll move to something that's a little bit easier. Movie. What's one movie that you think everyone has to see?
I should have been a little more prepared for this.
That's the whole point.
Oh, this is gut wrenching.
Oh, please.
It is. It really is. I know time is ticking here. Major League. No. Days of Fun Cocktail. No.
That would be a great answer. After all this Rick Simmons, you come back with like
right.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Shawshank Redemption. I don't know. That's what's coming to my mind right now.
Wow. Jeez.
I could have gone Schindler's List.
I suppose, but
I mean, all right. Well, I expected more, but that's all right. Oh, man. Okay.
All right, Jim, this is gold. What do you think about a bonus track?
We started today's episode with a track that we felt captured you, your nature, and your personality, which was, a bit of a dig because I didn't want to get something super obvious. But now your fans want a bonus track, a song, but you went off the rails on this one. You are the only second guest who has done this, and I kind of had a feeling you would. A song that you think best represents you, and you didn't give me one, you gave me several. So, Rick, lay it on us. What are these songs?
I'm trying to remember what I sent you. I think.
Do you want me to help you?
Yes, I do. I'm trying to remember.
That right there shows the spontaneity of this. I could say anything I want now. The spontaneity of the Sounds of Success. You said Satisfied Mind by Jeff Buckley. You said Beautiful Day by U2. And you said Put Me in Coach by John Fogerty. Unfortunately, you got the name wrong there, and I will call you out on that because it's called Center Field, not Put Me in Coach. But that's okay.
I should have known that.
And what was the other one? Oh, and High Hopes, Panic at the Disco. So you went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 songs when you were asked for one.
I'm a lot, Jim.
Perfect. Amy, is Amy listening? Where is Amy right now? Because you know what? I think that was Rick is 3 words, so simplistic, so perfect. Why do you think these songs represent you? I mean, you should have put like 50 songs that all represent that. Be you. But why do these 5 songs represent you?
I think they are anthems for who and how I want to be.
That might be the best answer ever.
They are anthems for who and how I want to be.
Alfonso, you still have those tissues?
No, I'm all out.
It's a tearjerker, isn't it? This is the movie we should watch. You laugh, you cry, right?
It's better than Cats.
Those are great songs, Rick, but I'm curious, would you like some fun facts about a song that I picked of that list?
I would.
Okay. So that would be Satisfied Mind, and that's not the first time you've talked to me about that song. So I did a little bit of fun fact research.
Yep.
That song was originally written by a guy named Red Haid and Jack Rhodes in 1955. They were country guys. They wrote it. And the first recording was by a guy named Porter Wagner. Super fascinating guy. He was a country singer. And to give you an example of how fascinating this guy was, he had a resurgence of his career in his 80s. And he opened for the White Stripes in a sold-out Madison Square Garden.
Oh, my gosh.
And that's the first guy that recorded that song.
Wow, that's incredible.
Crazy, right?
That is.
That song has been covered more than 50 times by artists such as Ella Fitzgerald, Glenn Campbell, Bob Dylan, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Robert Plant, and, of course, Jeff Buckley. So, Rick, I have to say, that is a truly perfect closing note for today's session. Big thanks to Rick Simmons, co-founder and CEO of the Telos Institute. Rick, thank you for recording with us today.
Thank you, Jim. This was a real treat. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Me too. If there's one thing we all seem to share, regardless of background or profession, it's our shared love of music and making great connections with people like we did today with Rick. Until next time, I'm Jim Lombardo, where the sounds of success are unscripted, unfiltered, and unforgettable.